Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Big Jiu-Jitsu Show. I'm Rob,
I'm Randy.
and we're as always, we're brought to you by Trap and Roll Soap Company. So we'll put the links in the description. You guys can get some soap that will make sure you get the fungus and all the other gross stuff off your body, so that you're not bringing ringworm or strep, staph, all that stuff into the gym and giving it to everybody else. Please don't bring strep into the gym either. That is even worse, I feel. So it
What I,
takes
what
it.
I heard what I heard was that you said if you drink Trap and Roll soap, it'll get rid of strep throat. I don't know if we can recommend that. We're not doctors. I would not recommend that.
I would recommend drinking soap. I mean, I feel like it's going to clean you out. It'll get you clean on the inside, but at what cost? You're probably
Yeah.
going to end up doing what I heard called the double dragon, where you're sitting on the toilet and throwing up at the same time.
I mean, I had a bar of soap in my mouth when I was a kid. I guarantee you did at some point.
Yeah, I think so too. Those are probably some repressed memories, but I don't think I ever like ate it or swallowed it or whatever.
No.
Or was it like from a Christmas Story where it's like it's soap poisoning? You go
Yeah.
blind from it.
Yeah. But I mean, at least if you're going to reenact the scene from A Christmas Story, which is funny because that's exactly what I was thinking about, might as well make it a delicious bar of Trap and Roll Soap Company.
Yeah, so one of the bars he did had coffee grounds on it
Oh, I'm
to
down. Yeah.
to help exfoliate. So yeah, it may have been a time or two. I'm like, might have. No, I didn't put my mouth on it. I
I'm a
thought
coffee
about it.
dude. I'm a coffee fiend. So if I don't have any coffee and there's just that bar of soap sitting there, it might happen. Is he back up and running now?
He will be pretty soon. He's moving back to the States, so he'll have
Cool.
his setup back. And also, Rainey and I were just talking about. I apologize. My voice is very hoarse from screaming as loud as I can at the NC State Virginia Tech wrestling match. And if you're into wrestling, college wrestling specifically, it was a hell of a match, and it did not look like it was going to go our way in the
Hmm.
first half of the matches. I was not very happy with it, but
Yeah.
it went
I
well for us at the end.
I watched I watched a day after. I watched the next day after the event at home since I was busy the day of. But yeah, I've become an NC State wrestling fan for sure. I've always enjoyed watching college wrestling. Um, just because I enjoy watching any combat sport really. But lately it's become more something I've gotten more into because I've been training with Anthony, who was a former D1 wrestler with Gardner Webb, and have really been kind of catching the bug on learning wrestling more. And what comes with that is wanting to go watch it, and got to go to Reynolds Coliseum. What is that? 3 weeks ago, I
Yeah,
think. Three
because
weeks
remember
ago.
you commented on my post like, oh, my dude, I'm over here. I'm like,
Yeah, yeah,
gone.
yeah.
Yeah,
It was when it was UNC NC State the rivalry match. That was great, man. What an atmosphere for college wrestling at Reynolds Coliseum. That was incredible. And Hidlay is a fucking beast.
he is, man. Like
Yeah.
he's one of my favorites to watch because
Yep.
just it's just dominating pressure the entire time. He doesn't let up. I think that's great. Like
Well, and
that's
I love how they talked about it on the broadcast. Is and this is what you kind of learn. I think you start developing eyes for the different style of wrestling and grappling when you watch, like if you watch judo or you watch college wrestling or you watch jiu-jitsu, you kind of have to develop an eye for what's going on and where to look. And I've started to notice more and more things the more I watch it. But they keyed in on the broadcast that Hidlay has a strategy where he likes to cut an angle and get to the side, and then he just has relentless pressure from the side to off balance who he's wrestling against, and you can see it. And I mean, he's so imposing, man. It's incredible. And you could tell his fans just freaking love him, man. That place erupted when he won that match.
oh yeah. It was
Awesome.
it was the turning of the tide. And like I was talking to my buddy Brian, the guy I usually go with, and he said in the second part after the intermission, they didn't give up a single takedown
That's
the
awesome.
rest of the match. So I was like, that was what was needed. And we came back and it wasn't a stomping, but it was a pretty, I guess I'm trying to think of the best word to say there. Like they knew it was not close. It wasn't
No,
close at the end. So it
no,
was good.
no. Good shit for sure. And I'm just gonna say it. Fuck Virginia Tech.
Yeah, the fans were not like, I'll say this. We were sitting by a couple of the wrestlers like parents up there. And then there across the way there was a small group of Virginia Tech fans that, they were doing senior night, and I was telling you before too, this poor girl, it was her senior year. She was a manager for the team, like we're talking like the person who like, tapes up ankles, make sure everybody has their stuff, like just still an integral part of the team.
Absolutely.
She starts walking up, and that small group of people like, "Ah, fuck you, you suck!" Like just screaming at her. Like the manager, like she's not
Yeah.
getting out on the mat and wrestling, dude. Like, come on.
Yeah. Yeah. That's ridiculous. I
So
mean, and you see it a lot, especially like in pro football, and I'm sure it happens a lot elsewhere too. But like you see it on the sidelines where if the opposing team happens to have a player go down on the enemy sidelines, that trainer will still come out and help the opposing team player to make sure they're okay. So, it's like, come on, you don't need to disrespect those people. They may be part of the team, but they're not like the actual athlete going that you're going against. Um, that's ridiculous. Well, and you saw the court storming incident yesterday in Duke, right?
no, I didn't see that.
So Duke basketball lost.
Yeah,
Uh, and of course, the rival fans come storming the court, and they ran into one of the Duke players. I think it was Filipowski, and hurt his ankle or his knee. And they're talking about how this trend of court storming is getting out of hand because now that's the second player. There was a female player that got hurt in a different court storming. So I mean, it's just like, man, I don't know. I don't know what fans are doing these days. They're being a bunch of D-bags. And then at the UFC last night, they had a massive brawl breakout in Mexico City inside the stadium. So
nice. I need to go
yeah.
back and watch that. We had a brunch yesterday, so we kind of went to bed real early because I'm old.
Well, you got to watch the Brian Ortega match. That was, you talk about a hell of a comeback, which I like T-City, man. I like
Okay,
T-City.
I will
Good,
definitely check that out.
good fight. Great fucking fight, man. Great fight. Yeah, dude.
So you did
So,
some traveling this week, though, didn't you?
yeah, yeah.
That's
I
right.
went to last week. Yeah, I went to Phoenix, Arizona. That'd be my third time. Gotta say, the more I go to Arizona, the more I really like it, man. I
Yeah,
like it more every single time I go. Because the first time I went out there was to Tucson. That was maybe a year or so ago.
yeah.
Um, and I wasn't a big fan when I initially landed, which that's because Tucson's a shitty town, depending on where you're at.
Tucson
Uh,
Airport is not cool either.
no, 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 it was really bad. So I think that kind of gave me a bad first impression. But over time, it grew on me, and I went to a really cool jiu-jitsu school out that way. And then last year, I went to Phoenix for work, and I dropped in at Jay Page's Jiu-Jitsu, which I think I talked about on the show last year. And that place was incredible. So I made sure that when I went back to that area, I was actually in Chandler this time, but we flew into Phoenix. I made a point to drop in at Jay Page's again because the experience was so great last time, and it didn't disappoint. Did not disappoint again. What an awesome gym to go to. If we ever end up going out to one of these Globetrotter events, we'll have to try to get in there because I mean that first of all, Jay Pages, if you don't know who he is, he's got an incredible resume for jiu-jitsu and combat sports in general. He's trained a lot of really incredible people. He's got incredible, like he's got what is he, like a third or fourth degree in jiu-jitsu. He's a
Yeah.
black belt in judo. He's a catch wrestling instructor. He's a Muay Thai crew. Like I mean, the guy just has an awesome resume, but he's one of the most down-to-earth human beings you'll ever meet. Very, very accommodating to outsiders dropping in, and his people that he has in his gym are too. Don't get me wrong, they'll kick your ass, but they'll do it very respectfully and very politely, right? And they'll shake your hand and give you a bro hug after. But what an awesome, there were 55 people on the mat
Oh my God.
the day that I got to drop in over there for a no-gi class. And you had ex-NFL football players on the mat. You had professional MMA athletes on the mat, high-level jiu-jitsu competitors, brown belts, black belts, and then obviously all the way down to your hobbyist white belts represented. And it was just awesome. Um, I got my ass kicked pretty good there.
Was it by the
I'll say
hobbyist white belt? I doubt it, but
no, no, it was so there were two. I had two really, really good rolls. One against one of their black belts. Um, And that was your typical black belt role where it was respectful, reciprocal, but still pretty good, pretty intense against Oscar, which Oscar just won his division in the ADCC Open.
oh, that's
And
it. That's all he
and
did.
yeah,
Good
yeah,
God.
yeah, yeah. But I mean, what a fucking gentleman though, seriously, on the mats. I mean, incredible skill, very technical, great pace, intensity all the way through, but not an asshole by any stretch of the means. super happy to see that he had success because he was a really cool guy. So he's in Mexico as we speak, fighting down there in Mexico. So that's pretty cool. And then another guy, JJ, who was actually a brown belt, had been doing he actually had a background in wrestling since we were talking about wrestling. And he wrestled since he was like 7 years old. I've been doing jiu-jitsu since he was like 10 years old. Um,
Thank God.
and built like a brick shit house, fights MMA, competes in jiu-jitsu. Um, and that was started out good, started out good. And then time started picking up on me, man. And I actually was on the verge of losing consciousness at one point in the role, which is a pretty funny experience, man.
Well, like just from rolling or from
I don't,
submission or
I
just
still don't know. I still don't know, man. So we were rolling, and I remember it wasn't like a guillotine or a Darius Anaconda type situation, but he was in kind of a front headlock, started kind of working a little bit of a cradle. He had my leg and my head,
yeah.
and so I tried to front roll to kind of free up some space and try to get out. So I remember I'm laying face up, my back is like on his chest, and I'm looking up at the lights of the gym. And I remember thinking, where the fuck am I right now? I kind of just lost any real understanding of where I was or what I was doing for a moment. And then I felt my legs felt real tingly and kind of like weak. You know how like if you don't eat enough
Yeah.
and your legs get weak, it felt like that. And I felt the head rush and my vision closing, and I'm like, oh, I'm about to pass out. Like,
Interesting.
and so then I tapped out and I was like, hey man, I'm about to pass out. And he's like, oh, okay. So he lets me go, and we sat there and laughed about it for a minute or so. Um, the round ended around that time because we'd been rolling for a bit. And then it was time for the little run around the gym finisher that he did. But yeah, it was really strange because like I didn't feel like I had any bilateral compression going on like with my carotids or anything. I don't know if it was just that my head was at the right angle, or I don't know. I don't know. Or maybe he just kicked my ass that bad that I was fucking exhausted. I have no idea.
It could be a combination of stuff. Like, sometimes you get like not winded, but like if you're just tired,
Yeah.
and just stuff catches you and like yeah, in ways you wouldn't really expect it to, I guess is the best way to put it, because it's the exhaustion compounded with even like a halfway submission attempt,
Yeah. Yeah.
like makes it that much worse. So,
Well, and in my defense, not taking anything away from him, but I mean, I've been dealing with these weird like vertigo kind of neurological
ooh,
issues. So I
yeah,
don't know if that contributed, you know. But either way, it was seriously, I say that, and it was an amazing experience. I think you need to have those types of roles, and you need to have those types of experiences to
yeah.
pick up where your weaknesses are, where your gaps are. But it also taught me that I've been making a lot of progress in my wrestling because I mean, I was going against these guys that have really good takedowns and was, you know, doing better than I expected against somebody of that caliber. He should demolish me in wrestling. The guy has way more experience. But again, JJ was super polite, respectful. Highly recommend J Page Jiu-Jitsu for anybody that goes to the Phoenix area. If you live in Phoenix, you're not training there, I don't know what the fuck you're doing. Place is just incredible. So,
Well,
in August, I know there is there not immersion. There is a Globetrotters event coming up, and that is one of the stops. But I'll be going. Work is actually sending me to the LEO immersion camp that Origin is running.
yeah, nice.
So I think that overlaps. But you and I will have to pick a time to go to one. I really want to do the Globetrotter thing, man. I want to check out some spots.
They're fun, dude. They're fun. I will always preach about them. I mean, did that one last year, and even still with like all the COVID shenanigans and just work and business trips on my end, like I just fell right back into it. Knew some people there. It was great. I was happy to be there. And you'll get in there and just meet the randomest people and be friends with them forever.
That's what I love, though. That's what I want. I mean, Jiu-Jitsu is such an incredible community, man.
It
Also,
is.
I want one of those denim gis. I saw that somebody posted on, dude, you're on Belt Checker.
I am.
The forums are pretty good on there sometimes. It gets like hot and cold, but somebody posted about gis. There was a thread on gis, and somebody mentioned denim, and I honestly, for some reason, had it never had crossed my mind until that conversation that denim gis could be a thing.
Yeah.
And then I go and I started Google searching, trying to find one, and it turns out that this was like a thing for a while. Um, and the Globetrotters apparently have a denim gi, but they only sell it at some of their events. You can't get it on their website. They sell their travel gis, but no denim.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, fuck, I want a denim gi, dude. Why doesn't like Origin or one of these companies come out with a denim gi? Like imagine Origin with their fucking jeans and then you do a gi with that. That'd be incredible.
I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't do that in the future. I mean, all it is just taking the fabric and doing the cuts and sewing them together. I mean, some of the there's not much difference between excuse me, not much difference between like some of the heavy gi tops you and I
Yeah.
have versus like you said, denim.
I think it's an incredible idea. I think we should do a big jiu-jitsu show denim gi.
Let's look into it. Let's see what we can do. God, such fun and good ideas. We actually need to start like telling people to buy our shirts again.
Yeah,
I'll put
yeah.
the link up again. Like
Let's do a
if
rash
you
guard, man.
we should actually. That's a good idea too. Because I'm telling you, man, if you're listening to this show and you've already made it this far, tell your friends about us, please. Like we're still out here. We're still doing it. We are the big jujitsu. Big jujitsu show. I swear to God,
I,
I can talk today. Ugh,
I like the new format though. I like this. I think it's easier for us to be consistent on this like bi-weekly thing.
agreed.
So hey, one thing I want to ask you about,
Yeah.
and you said we talked about it a little bit the last episode. I didn't remember talking about it.
It was the okay, so we kind of did. It was the because I know you called it ecological. I think it was more or less the
Constraints led approach.
maybe. I'm not sure. I don't remember what we called it, but it was basically just like the organic jujitsu learning or whatever it's called,
Yeah.
where it's just like it's concepts, but like not teaching people concepts in a sense. Like you don't teach them basics, you just let them try to figure it out. But like
Yeah. Well, and so that was kind of what the trip to Arizona was initially for, but on the law enforcement side was it was a methods of instruction by Force Science. Force Science does a lot of training for cops, and they're pretty legit. They use science as the basis of their models, and they review the use of force incidents and combine that with psychology and sociology and scientific methods and stuff to come up with good solutions to things. And it was at Virtra, which is a like a virtual reality type training company. They have like VR goggles, augmented
oh,
reality, and all these different things. Dude, it was incredible. I got to put on some augmented reality goggles, and that was the coolest shit I've ever seen, man. It was pretty damn cool. Um, but they hosted the event, went there, and it was a week-long class, pretty in-depth, pretty deep stuff related to how human beings learn motor skills, how to improve physical performance under stress in dynamic environments, which obviously defines law enforcement pretty well. And of course, I'm here for a law enforcement class learning about methods of instruction. And where do you think my brain goes immediately?
jujitsu, of course.
Jiu-jitsu all fucking day, man. Of course. And so after during one of the breaks, I asked one of the instructors, top-notch instructors there, man, they were ridiculous. I asked them, I said, hey, obviously you're talking about motor learning, so that would apply to martial arts and, like, yeah. I was like, well, I do jiu-jitsu and I'm trying to figure out, obviously I want to employ this in my department, make my officers better. I'm going to do that. But on the outside of that, I want to figure out how to apply this in jiu-jitsu because I coach that too. And to that point, I hadn't really heard much of specific people in that circle. I've always known conceptual learning was an important thing. And I've always believed more in conceptual learning versus just straight up like technique by the numbers. But I always figured you would do technique by the numbers and then reinforce that with some conceptual stuff and blah 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 blah. And so they introduced me to the names of Greg Souders, Scott Steve Wright, and they mentioned Kit Dale, which of course we all know Kit Dale
Yeah.
already. And he talks a lot about conceptual learning and has for years. Well, then I started going down the rabbit hole because I got to travel back from Arizona to here. So I'm listening to podcasts on the plane and I'm doing all this stuff. And I mean, all week I've been listening to podcasts and watching videos and reading stuff, trying to just understand this idea at a deeper level. And they call it the ecological approach, is what Greg Souders calls it. Um, but it's really based on what's called the constraint-led approach, which Rob Gray is a doctor, a psychologist that really kind of popularizes that with like tennis players and golf players and golfers, golf players, golfers.
Golfers, yeah, same thing. They play
It's not
golf too.
it's not a fucking sport. But anyway, they they apply these methods to all that and it's taken me quite a bit and I'm still going to learn more about it obviously as time goes on, but I'm really starting to become a believer. I got to try some of this constraints-led approach stuff in defensive tactics with my department with some new hires we got last week. And then at jiu-jitsu this past Friday in my Friday class, I ran some of these games. I still feel like there's a need occasionally for some like fine tuning on technique. But I think the key, at least my level of understanding right now, is I feel like if you do lean, you have them do the games first, and we'll talk about a little bit about that. Like have them do these drills or the situational sparring or the task-based games first. Give them the constraints, and then if you see the need to fine tune to kind of expedite their process a little bit, or maybe they're going like off the rails a little bit, then kind of bring them back on track with a little bit of technical advice, and then reinforce it with more games. Um, but basically, what it is, and I'm not smart like Greg Souders to be able to describe this in scientific terms, and he kind of annoys me with how um, educational, or not educational, how freaking scientific he gets with his verbiage. Basically, what it is you flip the script, you reverse engineer it. So instead of coming in with your fundamentals and teaching like this is an arm bar, and with an arm bar, we take the arm and we have it across our hip at this angle, and we've got this, thumb facing up, two-handed grip, blah, 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 or mount. This is mount. You don't break it down by the numbers. You literally say like, all right, if we're talking about mount, top player is on top, covering the hips of the bottom player, right?
Yeah.
Your job on top is to just hold this position any way you can, using your connection of your hips to theirs, your chest to theirs, whatever it is that you need to do to keep them flat on the ground from this position. This is called mount. We're going to do whatever we can to hold this position. Bottom player's job is to use their hands to push the top player off of them. We're talking about like a beginner, straight up beginner, right?
Yeah.
So the top player is going to be their job is going to be controlling mount, and they're going to be dealing with something that happens very common from mostly the untrained, which is to just bench press you off.
Yep.
And you're going to give them this drill, and you're going to say, okay, we're going to run this for a minute, right? And if the bottom player succeeds in pushing the person off, then you just reset the drill. Top person's job, there is no real way to win. You're just going to hold that top position for as long as you can. Use whatever comes up, whatever you think of to hold them down. And you might see things like they may pry the elbow off, pry the elbow, get an underhook. They might get really good, get a crossface going or something like that. They may not even know what the fuck it is, but they're doing it. And then you can kind of go in and kind of fine tune a little bit. You can vary the constraints. You can do whatever you want. So it kind of is a more detailed, more restricted version of situational sparring.
Okay. Like I understand. Do what?
Have you ever done anything like that?
Well, yeah, I've done situational sparring, but that was more or less like later on in doing jujitsu, outside of stuff like one person starts on top and side control, the other person stays on bottom. One of the sparring things we used to do in Arizona a lot was one person starts on their butt, like they'll pick like the five highest ranks. Like, you go in there and you start on your butt. If you sweep them or submit them, you win. If they pass your guard, they win. So like, I guess that's like the constraints of it. And we did that like hell, like maybe 4 or 5 times a week, every night, just about, for gi or no gi. I think that helps a lot. And I think it helps up to a certain point. Because if you watch, at least my opinion, if you watch like white belts and brand new people jump into jiu-jitsu and they go at it, right? What's all the high ranks want to watch the two brand new people, fight it out. It's hilarious, right?
Yeah.
We don't do that to discourage you guys. It's just like, it's a good reminder for us, like, oh shit, I remember doing that when I was a white belt.
Yeah.
But somebody's going to do something and it's going to work, and it's going to work on another beginner.
Correct.
So I've always joked about like, sometimes a trash can gets a steak every once in a while. So like you get a coach who has no fucking idea what they're doing. Right. I mean, you can even get fake coaches who have no idea. Like, I've been doing catch wrestling for 30 years and the guy has never touched the mats, but now he's magically a grappling coach.
Right.
And he has some students that have success just because they're using like, oh, well, this shit works when I do it in the gym and the coach is happy with it. And then I use it in the tournament, it works. So I'm going to keep doing that. I think sometimes it's going to reinforce some bad habits that may carry over. But like you're saying, if you monitor them enough,
yeah,
and make sure they're not going like super crazy with it. So like a good example I see a lot of is if I go for a leg lock, then the other person goes for a leg lock.
Right.
Like, stop doing that. Or I sit on my butt and the new person goes, huh, this black belt's sitting on his butt. I'm gonna sit on my butt. And I sit up and I pass their guard.
Yeah.
Like break those habits now. Like those of us who've been doing it a bit kind of know what we need to work on. So I think, like you said, if you monitor it and you make sure they're not going off the rails so much that they just lose focus on what the importance of the drill is, then I think it's fine. I think there is a place for it to be used, but I also still believe fine tuning through drilling helps on top of that. So then you just combine the two.
Right. And I think that, and I'm still kind of sorting through this, obviously, because it's still brand new to me. So, um, and I think I definitely agree with you. I think there's some areas where I still struggle to kind of see how to apply it in that. And that's kind of like one of those areas you're talking about is, okay, I can understand because the argument for ecological method is that, it's contextually relevant. So you put them in like a live, everything is done live. Nothing is done static, dead drilling, anything like that. Everything is done with resistance and the whole nine yards. You control that with constraints, depending on where you're trying to guide them to, right? Um, and so that's kind of the point of it is to provide constraints to kind of bottleneck them or at least guide them toward the path you're trying to get them to achieve. So then um, when I think about it, I'm like, okay, but I understand that we don't create techniques. Like nobody invents a technique. We
Yeah.
discover them, right? Like the human body can only work so many ways to create leverage and isolations and stuff like that. So we're just figuring out new ways to attain positions or achieve goals. But I can understand the concept that, okay, well, we're going to put you in a dilemma. We're going to create problems for you. Those problems are going to steer you in a direction, and then you're going to discover techniques that work for you in that situation, which at some point is how jujitsu and wrestling and judo, like at some point, that's how these techniques were born, the ones we consider fundamentals. But how much time are we going to waste to reinvent the wheel, right? So
Yeah.
like that's kind of my only hang up with it. And I think the answer lies in number one, balance. I don't buy into this like it's all or nothing, right?
Yeah. Agreed.
If teaching technique, um, if teaching technique didn't work, then jujitsu would have never progressed to where it is without going into the ecological method, right? So people still improve. I think it's about optimal and less optimal depending on what you're trying to do, and you factor in skill level, you factor in all these different things, and there's optimal and less optimal, but even less optimal still causes learning and progress. It just might be at a slower level, right? Or a slower pace, I mean. So I still don't think it's all or nothing, but I think that it, what it requires, what I'm noticing it requires, because I had to create some drills for law enforcement. And then I had to do, obviously do the class on Friday. And what I did is I took some ideas from Greg Souter's Instagram because he's got a bunch of these task-based games right there on his Instagram for you to pull from. And I used those as inspiration and kind of created my own. But what I noticed is it takes a really deep level of understanding as a coach. You have to kind of think about it differently because normally you go to class, you're going to teach something. I'm like, okay, today I'm going to go, maybe you have a technique or a concept of the month that you're trying to work on or position of the month. That's how Brad typically does it at our gym is like he's going to have a
Yeah.
technique, concept, or position that we're going to work on for the month, and you build on and you layer things on top of that. Um, with this, you go into class, you say, okay, well, we're doing front headlocks this month. Everything is going to be front headlocks going into guillotines, Darce anacondas, Japanese neckties, all the things, but from front headlock. Okay, cool. So then the first day is just talking about front headlock. How do we get here? Well, you shoot a double, somebody sprawls, or somebody gets butterfly, and then there's a position there, and they sit out, and they end up in a front headlock dilemma. Okay, this is how we get here. So now this is front headlock. How do we maintain it? What are our options from there? You can take the back if the hands hit the mat, or you can sit back for arm and guillotine. But you get where I'm going with that, right?
Yeah.
And each day you layer something different on top of that. That's been the typical way of learning for me for years in jiu-jitsu. Um, and while I still think there's value in that, I also understand that if I take, and I did it with this class on Friday, if I take my guys now, this class, I know my class very well on Fridays, their skill level. So there's some of that. Like I don't need to start from square one and teach them what front headlock is. I can just use that terminology and they're familiar with front headlock. So that saves me a lot of bullshit. But what I did was I broke it down to where it's like, okay, we're going to start from front headlock. I'm not going to teach you guys the Darce anaconda, Japanese necktie, and all the things we've talked about in the past. Instead, um, I want you to kind of find your way to a head and arm strangle organically. but we're going to break it down into 3 layers. I'm not going to just say situational sparring was exactly what you said. Like, hey, we're
Yeah.
going to start a front headlock. Top player, just you win if you sweep and submit, right? You flip them over and submit. Okay, cool. Bottom player, you win if you escape the position, right? Well, those are constraints, but it's still open-ended enough that it's just like going to submission. So what I did is I tried to close it off a little more. So I had it where, and this is where I used inspiration from Souders' game, where the first layer was establish front headlock. I told them they couldn't connect their hands yet. I told them they had to have the chin strap and control the elbow. And you can, once you start, you can deviate from hand on elbow position and from chin strap. You just couldn't connect your hands.
Okay.
So then you could switch sides, you could get underhooks, you could do whatever you wanted to do with those hands, but you had to stay on top. So where your chest was covering their back, and where you try to either get their hands on the mat, or off balance them. That was top player's goal. Bottom player's goal was to free their head and remove and improve their position. They could do that by sitting out, right, going into butterfly guard, removing their head from the dilemma they're in, or just completely freeing themselves out and creating distance, standing out. And I had them run that drill. Second round, they could connect their hands. They got their hands connected. Now their job was to try to get the bottom player on their back on the mat. That was their goal. All the previous rules still apply. Get their hands on the mat, keep their back covered with your chest, try to off balance them. And then the third layer was try to capture head and arm in some type of triangle, and then go into a head and arm strangle. And so we built on that. And then after we went through those 3 layers, both partners got to go. I did about 2-minute rounds apiece. After that, it was time to roll, and we rolled. Um,
Okay.
so like, you can create constraints that work for various levels, and you can just add complexities for the higher level people. You can keep it very basic, but I agree with you in that they in the class for force science, they called it narrowing bandwidth feedback. It was like this fancy term. And all that means is you have your bandwidth, right?
Yeah.
It's like a radar that shoots out. And inside of that is what's acceptable errors. Like, okay, I'm okay with these because they're heading in the right direction. But if it goes outside of my bandwidth, so it's unsafe, or they're just completely heading the wrong direction and they're creating, like you talked about, bad habits potentially, then I steer them back into my bandwidth. Does that make sense?
It does.
So if you got somebody trying to escape from out and they're doing some dumb shit, then you're going to step in and you're like, hey, man, like I like where your head is at and you're trying to do the right thing. But think about it like this. What might be more efficient in helping you achieve your goal? Have you thought about maybe trying something along these lines? And you kind of gear them, you steer them back in, and then you let them go back and fucking do it again.
So, I mean, because I was thinking about that too with after the podcast episode we did talking about it, I kind of did think about some certain things. And one thing came up to me, and it happened while I was working with a guy training during lunchtime rolls. He asked me, he said, "What can I do to, deal with this very specific like entry with a guard pass?" Like he's basically starting a knee slicer, couldn't finish the knee slicer because the person was like blocking him on one side. And I said, "Have you ever thought about just standing up, backing up for a second, and then
Right.
re-engaging?" And he looked at me and said, "Shit, I completely forgot you could do stuff like that." I'm like,
Yeah.
to me, because I was thinking about that, I was like, that comes from drilling, 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 drilling. These are the answers. These are the only answers I've got because these are the only answers I know because that's
Mhm.
what professor or coach has taught me. So,
Mhm.
in the sense of like you said, like a scenario based role or like you constrain what they can do,
Mhm.
that is to me, that's something just like same way, like shit, I forgot you can do something like that because in my mind, I go through these are the moves. Which one is going to be an acceptable option here? But now, obviously, now it's more or less like I'm just going to do whatever my body feels is correct at this point because you get all that stuff in your tool belt. And I
Well,
think,
yeah, but I think your guidance was perfect though. Like that wouldn't have been too much detail. I think what they're trying to, in ecological method, what they're trying to do is they're trying to steer you away from just giving the answers, being the easy button for a student,
yeah,
right? Because that isn't as efficient for retention and transfer, which is like the two goals of learning is they're going to retain the information you're teaching them, so they're going to remember it, and it's going to transfer to a live role or self-defense situation or whatever, depending on who you're teaching. And if you just give them the answer, it reduces the likelihood of retention and transfer. If they figure it out on their own, it increases that. But like if you tell them like, have you ever thought about standing up? and then trying to maybe disengage and re-engage, that's not giving them the answer.
Yeah.
You're just saying, have you thought about it? Have you thought about this idea? Giving them the answer would be, well, you tried to knee cut to the right and it's not working. Well, then the right thing to do is to reverse the position of the knees and go in a knee and smash the other side. That'd be giving them the answer, which is, I still feel like there's benefit in that
Yeah.
as long
Agreed.
as you reinforce it the right way. So you want to put them into one of these other games or situational sparring situations where they're going to have to apply that against live resistance. I think what I do believe is that dead drilling is not useless because I think that teaches you the movement pattern and you can feel what it's supposed to feel like.
Yeah.
But that should be a very, 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 very small amount of time. Where if you think about the traditional jiu-jitsu class, that makes up the bulk of the time. I've gone to classes where I didn't even get to fucking roll because we
Yeah.
spent the entire class just doing technique and drilling. And I'm like, and there was never resistance. And I can tell you that those classes, I never learned anything that actually transferred to my roles. Like I think that, and I think that's the whole thing on this that I'm picking up on is I don't think it's wrong to have a hybrid, right? Whereas
Yeah.
my understanding of Souders, I haven't met him. I'm not trying to judge the guy. He seems very knowledgeable and he's willing to share information. We could always even try to get him on a podcast, but he would probably sit here and say, well, no, that's not efficient. That's not how people learn. Eco is the way. And it's like, well, yes, but I agree that this may be the ideal, but this will still get something done. I
Yeah.
think the key is if I teach you a specific technique or I do have you drill with little to no resistance, that needs to be like a micro amount of time. And then I immediately reinforce that with some kind of game or situational sparring where there's resistance. Because think about how many times you've ever done an armbar like in sparring with somebody decent, somebody about your level, maybe a notch below, a notch above, whatever.
Yeah.
Um, when's the last time you've done an armbar against another like a brown belt or another black belt, or even a purple belt for that matter, in sparring that was exactly as you were taught to do it in class?
I mean, shit. I even go as far as like white and blue belts because they do
Yeah,
some of the wildest stuff to stop me from, or at least attempt to stop me from doing it. So I've only maybe ever gotten one picture perfect hands on the chest, squat up,
yeah,
step over, lean back.
yeah.
And it was that weird Japanese jiu-jitsu guy that came to my class once. And that was
Yeah.
it. That was
See,
it.
and that's what I mean. Like it's just when you're sparring, especially now that people know kind of what they're doing, they're going
Yeah.
to create dilemmas for you that you're going to have to
Yeah.
overcome and you're going to have to ad lib and figure shit out. Like, and then even specific submission chains, there's going to be modifications. Like you may have a system, a flow diagram, like one of those the flow charts of, well, if I do this and they respond this way, I'm going to do this, this, and this, and this, blah, 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 blah. It gives you a framework, but it doesn't ever happen exactly that way. Because at the end of the day, we have to respond to the resistance we're being given in the way we're being given it. And everybody's going to offer you different counters, and you're going to have to do it on the fly. And I think that's what these drills create. I mean, I was pretty impressed with what I saw on the law enforcement side when I ran the drills, and what I saw on Friday, especially once we started rolling and people actually got put into those dilemmas. And it was almost like, oh, there's all these things I know how to do from here now. Um, so I think that it's definitely a cool thing I want to learn more about, and it seems like it's kind of buzzing right now in jiu-jitsu. But let me say though, I don't think it's all or nothing.
No, and I agree with that. I think that's kind of the conclusion we came to last time as well. Like the concept stuff is great. Drilling is great. There's, like you said, there's a balance between it because, I mean, there's got to be a balance everywhere. Like you said, I've been to classes as well where we didn't roll, and I'm just like, why even show up? Because it's
Yeah.
like that's the practical application part of what we worked on today. Hopefully, I can try it out, hit that move. But
Well, and it's also, I just thought of this too. It's also a really good answer for those days. Like I've taught fundamentals many times at TFTC, especially if Adam needs me to cover, he's going out of town or whatever. And
yeah,
one of the struggles I found there is when it comes into the class, like I already knew that you wanted it if you could. It's ideal if you could work against some kind of resistance. But how do you control the resistance and the spazziness of brand new people if they're rolling? And that's been the worry. So you can't just take these brand new white belts and be like, all right, guys, class is over. Let's just go roll because somebody's going to get hurt or do some
yeah,
stupid shit. Constraints-led approach kind of, in my opinion, provides the answer for that because now I can give them these games and have constraints guide it to where it's safe. Because it's not submissions. Like if they're brand fucking new, I'm not worried about submissions. I'd rather them learn how to get out of bad ones and control good positions.
yep.
So now I can create these constraint-based games, and that's their role at the end of class. So that might be another way to use it. I just thought of that while we were talking about it.
It's not a bad idea. Because I always did the whole like if you were brand new to grappling in any way,
Yeah,
like it's minimum 2 weeks of
yeah,
like just positions. You don't get
yeah.
to try any submissions, like whether you learned them here or you saw them on TV. You don't get to do that.
Yeah, don't do it. Yeah,
And
yeah,
then you get 2 stripes, and then you can do stand up.
yeah.
That's it. Because
Yeah, well, that's how Brad does it. Once you get a stripe, then you can roll. So
okay,
before they get a stripe, it was always just like, hey, just sit out and watch. Or if somebody wants to drill with you, then they can drill with you. Well, here's another option. And then the other thing, I was listening to a podcast with him in it the other day, and he talked about like, oh, well, how do you scale this from, a white belt class? Because our classes are mixed levels most times. You'll have white belts in there, and you'll have fucking black belts in there. How do you bridge that divide? And he said, well, you provide more constraints to the higher belts, less constraints to the lower belts, right? Make the tasks pretty simple for the white belt, make them very complicated for the black belt or brown belt. So you could have it where, if it's a white belt and they're in mount, your job is to try to free their arm up, like try to get their arm up to their head, right? Get an underhook,
yeah,
how you and I would describe it, get an underhook, walk the underhook up, arms up by their head. Obviously, we know that could open up Americanas, back takes, bounded triangles, shit like that. But the white belt is just get one of their hands up by their head and control top position. And if they're rolling with a brown belt or black belt, then for them it would be either get both arms up by their head or get an arm up by their head, get head and arm trap, and take their back. You know what I mean? That's
yeah.
your goal. Because now it's a more complicated thing for them versus the lower belt. So things like that. I'm still learning, man. It seems like a pretty deep rabbit hole. Some of it seems unnecessarily complicated. I'm trying to kind of avoid those things. But I think the key takeaway is that we got to do more live resistance drilling and less dead drilling and just technique by the numbers. So
It'll be interesting to see because I know like you were very good at quickly implementing something you put your mind to. So I'm very interested to see how it's going to go.
I appreciate I get obsessed. I get like OCD about shit and
It's
it's like
fine, dude.
I don't even need to be a believer in it necessarily, but I want to understand it. And so I'm like diving all the way in. And you don't really know unless you try something new? So,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. So I think that's a pretty good approach to it, especially the whole if you don't like it's okay to understand something and not like it as long
Yeah.
as now you under is like do you want Brussels sprouts? No. Well, have you ever had them? No. Okay.
Brussels
Well,
sprouts are amazing.
they are. They are now. Our Brussels sprouts, our generation's Brussels sprouts, the way we make them are a lot
Mhm.
better than like the way my grandpa did, where he just boiled them and was like, "This is good. These things are awesome."
Yeah, that doesn't sound very, it doesn't
No,
sound,
it's not. Like
we gotta
it's
get
just
some butter on those things, man. So we gotta, well, it's like, I've always been a big fan of spinach. My dad raised me
yeah,
on spinach. I love spinach.
same.
But it depends on, you got to make them right though. And then, when I came down to the South, collard greens. I never thought I'd like them, but dude, they're
They're
fucking
good,
amazing.
man.
I'm gonna put
They're
some
good.
vinegar on those things. Let's go with some barbecue.
I've I'm surprised I haven't killed myself the amount of vinegar I put on my collard greens,
I
but
don't think you can put
whatever.
too much vinegar on them. You can't.
Good. Well,
Can't.
that's good to know.
Vinegar on French fries is good too.
It is. It is. I do enjoy vinegar. Vinegar and ketchup. Like
Yeah.
if you put them in a bag together and you shake it up,
Yep.
that's
I
kind
like
of
fries. I like fries a little bit burnt, a little bit
yeah.
like on the ends, burnt, and with some vinegar on it.
I'll try straight vinegar. Maybe I'll beat
Malt,
somebody. I
malt,
don't
malt
know.
vinegar, malt
Yeah.
vinegar.
No. Yeah, I figured it wasn't just like the straight like
No.
baking soda and vinegar, like
Yeah,
volcano. Like, hey, I'm
yeah,
gonna
the
wash my clean
volcano
the floor.
fries.
Like, oh yeah, it's gotta be like vinegar specifically for food. Yeah, I don't no, I don't use white vinegar unless I'm like cleaning windows or
Yeah,
like getting stuff off of like the counter. I don't know, but yeah, I don't know what that
yeah.
stuff's used for. It's not
I don't.
food, obviously.
I would hope not.
But so before we head out, Randy, do you have anything for our friends and listeners of the show?
I would say look out for the next episode because I think it's going to be a really good one.
Oh yeah, it is. It's gonna be a great one. I agree with that. Please, please. We'll promote it pretty heavily too.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
but we do thank you guys for listening, and we've been doing this for years, years and years. So we
You've
do
been doing
really
it way longer than me.
well. I mean, when I say we, I mean, like, yes, you and I, but like, there's a whole bunch of people who've been involved in it. So
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
like you've still been a part of the show even before you were a co-host. So it's okay. But yeah, no, we appreciate everybody who listens, and we thank you guys, and we'll continue to give you guys good episodes, or the best episodes we can give you. How about that? And thank you guys. I'm Rob.
I'm Randy.
We'll catch you guys next time.